Good morning, my esteemed learners, and I'm greatly excited to be before you to engage you in a very exciting course unit called Foundations of Agroecology. Why it is exciting is because this is the course unit which introduces you to a whole program that has solutions to the biggest challenges of the globe today. If you know of the biggest challenges of the globe today, these include food security, which is greatly affected by climate change. But when we are studying this program or this course unit, we shall actually look at solutions to these big problems. I am Clovis Kabaseke. According to my background, I have a Master of Science in Agroecology, and I'm a PhD Fellow of Agroecology and Food Systems. And I'm extremely passionate about agroecology, and this is why perhaps I have been entrusted with the responsibility of taking you through this very important course unit, Foundations of Agroecology. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to first of all bring to your notice that as a teacher, I cannot take anything for granted. I know when I talk about agroecology, most of you may be already having a very wonderful idea or clue about what agroecology might be. But to be very careful, I would want to ascertain that all of us start understanding agroecology from the same perspective. And to do that one very successfully, I would like to be sure that all of us understand the word ecology first. We need to understand ecology from the same perspective, and that will be a very good basis for us to graduate into understanding to various types of ecology, which of course includes agroecology, which is the subject matter for us. Ecology is the study of how living things interact with their environment and with one another. I would like to use the simplest language for everybody to understand. Ecology is the study of how living things interact with their environment and with one another. When I'm talking about living things, I'm talking about trees, plants, animals, birds, insects, and how they interact with their environment. Where the environment, actually, I'm talking about air, I'm talking about soil, I'm talking about water, I'm talking about rocks. All those make the environment. So the study of how the various living things interact with one another and how they also interact with their environment is what we actually call ecology. This ecology is a very, very exciting study because if you went to analyze what goes about with the various living things that are in our environment, for instance, at one time you can hear birds chirruping, like you can hear them in the background. You can see some trees sometimes standing very still as if they are sleeping. And sometimes you can find them shaking because of the effects of wind. You can actually see some insects climbing on the trees, trunks. You can see ants creeping on the ground. You can actually sometimes meet some monkeys jumping from one tree to another. You can see squirrels eating nuts and going to hide some in the ground. All these are interactions that you can really study and find that it's very, very exciting to understand them. When you do all those, then you are trying to understand what ecology means. Now, if we believe that we are starting to understand ecology from the same perspective, I'd like my dear learners to understand that ecology has its principles. And it is very important to understand the principles so that you can understand what ecology exactly means. Now, right now, I'm going to rush through some principles of ecology. I'm not talking about principles of agroecology yet, but I'm talking about principles of ecology. We shall eventually go into the principles of ecology at a later time, but now I want us to understand the principles of ecology. One of the very important, actually the first principle of ecology is interdependence. When we are talking about interdependence, I think all of you can quickly understand that everything has a way it depends on another. This is why people usually say that no man is an island, meaning that even when you are a human being, you cannot live solely independently. You have to live with many other things in your environment. So all living organisms are interconnected and dependent on one another within an ecosystem. And a change in one component can have ripple effects on other components. That is the principle of interdependence. By just affecting one of the elements in the ecosystem, the whole ecosystem may be affected because everything is interconnected in one way or another. Very many examples can be given about this. As we continue, we shall be getting those examples. Another principle of ecology is energy flow. Actually, whatever is done on Earth is done using energy. When you are sleeping, even sleeping, when you are asleep, you are using energy. Even when you are seeing, you use energy. Even when you are walking, even when you see an insect moving, it is using energy. Even to breathe, we use energy. But what is important is there is a way that energy flows from its source up to when it is being used. And the primary source of all energy that is used on Earth is the sun. And we have plants. Plants are the only things, only living things that can transform the energy of the sun into usable energy that we use. So energy flows through an ecosystem in only one direction. From producers, these are the plants which convert the energy of the sun into usable energy. When you are eating a sweet potato, you are very happy that you have a sweet potato that you are eating. But in reality, the plant will have gathered the energy of the sun through the process of photosynthesis. It has actually made energy. It has used some and it stores more in the roots so that it can actually use that one later on. For us, when we go to remove the sweet potato, we are stealing away the energy of the plant which it has stored. And when we eat that sweet potato, it gives us energy. So plants are the ones which are producers of energy, and when you eat the sweet potato, you become a consumer. Animals animals are consumers. Even human beings, we know we are animals. We consume. But at the same time, we have got decomposers. Immediately you have eaten the sweet potato, you will put your waste somewhere and it will get decomposed by bacteria and other microorganisms. Those are decomposers, and this is how the energy flows. And this makes the food chain or sometimes food web. So we have now talked about two principles of ecology. We have talked interdependence, we have talked about energy flow, but we also have others. We have got like nutrient cycling. if you are trying to do ecology, you must always follow the principle of nutrient cycling. Nutrients such as carbon, such as nitrogen, such as phosphorus are continuously recycled within an ecosystem through various biochemical cycles, and this ensures the continuous availability of essential elements for life. So the principle of nitrogen cycling is a very important principle in ecology. We also have the principle of adaptation. If you can't adapt to a certain situation, if you can't adapt to any environment, then be very sure that you are going to be phased out. So adaptation is a very, very important principle of ecology. If there is climate change, for instance, we must struggle to adapt to effects of climate change. Otherwise, climate change will wipe us out. If you find yourself in a strange area, or if an organism finds itself in a new area, it must quickly adapt. Failure to adapt means that it will be phased out. In ecology, we have another principle of population dynamics. The dynamics of population are extremely very important. For instance, the size and growth rate of population are influenced by factors such as birth rate, death rate, immigration or emigration, as well as interactions between species, which actually can be described as competition or predation or even symbiosis. So population dynamics, if you have several chicken, for instance, keeping them in a small room, either if you don't feed them in a very special way, they will actually die out until they leave the number that can be contained in that room. So the bigger the population, the change of interactions, the change of lifestyles for every organisms. So to study population dynamics in ecology is very, very important, and that is a very important principle. We have the principle of succession. Over time, ecosystems undergo a series of predictable changes in the composition and structure of the plant and animal communities, a process known as ecological succession. So these are important principles. We also have the principle of biodiversity. We also have the principle of ecosystem services, and we have the principle of sustainability. These are 10 principles which we actually call cardinal principles of ecology. I think we are soon going for a break. We have already talked about the principles of ecology as the guiding principles that can actually enable us to understand what ecology is. If I could, I don't want us to forget, I have told you that ecology is the study of how living things interact with their environment and with one another. And I have mentioned principles of ecology: interdependence, energy flow, nutrient cycling, adaptation, population dynamics, succession, biodiversity, limiting factors, ecosystem services, and sustainability. All these are important principles of ecology. When we go through them, we shall be starting to understand what ecology is. Let us go for a short break, and we shall come and continue with the various types of ecology as we progress towards our real course unit. Thank you very much.